Welcome for this month's webinar, our Lunch and Learn. We are proudly joined by Gabrielle Arms, who heads up our marketing here at 5x5. So all these nice visuals and everything you see out in the world largely is overseen by her, executed by our amazing marketing team. And we are talking content, specifically content repurposing, and how can we be super efficient in using the example of one blog post. We get one sole key piece of content, convert that into 10 different content pieces. That's the big promise here. So I don't know about you, Gabs, but this was always in 20 years of business, creating content was it was a bit of a grind, I've got to tell you.
Yeah, it's tough, especially for small businesses when you probably don't have a marketing team that are looking after this for you, and it's solely relied upon the business owner to come up with this content. So we thought, what better way than to show you how easy it actually can be. Like the biggest thing is about being prepared, and just in terms of content repurposing, it's such a great way to save time, obviously, but also just maximizing your content output and your reach across multiple marketing channels. So a lot of areas that business owners get stuck in is thinking that they have to create a whole bunch of different assets for every single marketing channel that is out there. And the case really is that you don't really need to do that. And we just wanted to show you how easy it is to actually just take that one core piece of content and then get it across the marketing channels that you need to.
Really, this is about leverage. So reusing what you've already created just to expand that reach and the lifespan of it.
Yep.
So do you want to sort of talk marketing and how content repurposing fits into that?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. So the first couple slides here, we're going to go a little bit high level just to provide you guys with some context, and then we'll get into the real nitty gritty of that one piece into 10 other content pieces. So just to give you a little bit of context around what we're talking about today. So a couple of lingo items would be your marketing strategy. So that is your game plan. How are you promoting or and selling your products and services? You then move into, once you've come up with your marketing strategy, you work out your content marketing. So your content marketing is actually creating the content. So it's educational, it's informative, and it's relevant content that's going to attract, engage, and retain your audience. And then from content marketing, what we're talking about today is content repurposing. So transforming one piece of content into 10 different formats so that you are able to reach a wider audience, basically.
Talk to us about this slide and what cross-posting, posting, and repurposing technically means.
Yeah, perfect. So cross-posting basically is posting the same piece of content on various platforms. So you may come up with a graphic or an image, and you're going to post that same graphic or image on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So that would be cross-posting. Reposting is when you have a piece of content that you've posted previously. So to give you an example, we may have posted a reel and we got a bunch of engagement on that reel. So we got a bunch of likes, a bunch of comments, our views were through the roof. And because that piece of content was so successful and because it's still relevant, we're going to repost it a few months later. And then repurposing is taking the core information from one piece of content and then just adapting that slightly so that it fits other marketing channels. So for example, turning a blog post into an Instagram carousel. So this repurposing is what we're talking about today.
Awesome. And we got some practical examples of how you can do that.
Yeah.
A couple of things we need to keep in mind.
Yeah. So the first thing is what to share. So what you want to do is you want to analyze your content. So you want to see what's performing well and what's getting the engagement. It's really important. You don't want to be posting stuff that's not bringing any benefit to your business whatsoever. So make sure you're looking at the analytics of your content. Every sort of social media platform, analytics and things like that will give you the data that you need. So it's really important to look at that just to make sure what you're posting is actually being read and engaged with by your audience. And then also just using that data to find out what your audience finds interesting in your content and valuable, and then just adapting that into different formats to share across more marketing channels. And then who to share it with. So the biggest thing is probably understanding your audience. So it's repurposing is not about adapting every piece of content that you produce to every single channel. Like that's just a whole bunch of work that you really don't need to be doing. So you really need to find out where your target audience is hanging out, because your different target audiences are probably going to be hanging out on TikTok, or you may have all of your target audience in your email marketing platform. So you should really focus in your email marketing platform. And then another thing to think about is how are they actually going to consume your content? So if they're on TikTok, they're looking for short, snappy videos. They're not looking for 3-minute long videos. They want that 30 seconds because it's that endless scroll. Whereas if your audience is hanging out in your email marketing, what you need to look at is probably long form copy, because that's what a lot of email marketing is the long form copy. So analyzing your content and understanding your audience are two key things that you really need to look at when you're doing your content repurposing.
Here's a couple of examples. So practical examples, easy ways you can repurpose your content. Yep. So we're going to just sort of tail end of this. We're going to get into our actual marketing calendar for 5x5. And this is more the sort of tactical. So just explain like what this is, sort of what we call our hero bit of content.
Yeah, correct. So every month, and we'll get into this a little bit, we have one hero content piece, and that's usually a blog. So an example of how we've repurposed this is taking snippets from the blog post and then turning it into an Instagram post. So the only thing here is we just created it in a pretty picture. We use the exact same content that we did in the blog post. We didn't try and change it. We used exactly the same thing. We just turned that content into the type of content people are looking for on Instagram. So that's something really visual.
Cool. So that's a practical example.
Yep.
What about this one?
Yeah, so another one, and it's a really easy one as well. So is taking that blog post that you have on your website and then turning it into a LinkedIn article. So LinkedIn is a great place to be for businesses. It's full of business owners. It's full of marketing executives and things like that. So turning your blog post that's on your website into a LinkedIn article is definitely going to reach your type of audience, if that is what your audience is. And another thing that you can do is you can have your website linked in the LinkedIn article, and then that way that you're getting traffic from LinkedIn to your website. Another really good one is just turning an email newsletter into an Instagram carousel or a LinkedIn post. So very similar to the first one that we showed you, it's taking the same content and then just transforming that into the type of visual content that people are looking for on LinkedIn or Instagram.
Yep. And it's just pulling out a profound piece of that quote, whatever, and then even extending that in the post comment or description or comments as well.
Yeah, correct. The only thing I'd probably say with this one is you don't want to be, if you're going to turn written content into an Instagram post, for example, you don't want that post full of copy. You really just want to be taking bite-sized pieces of the original piece of content, because people aren't going to sit there and read through it. Especially on Instagram, it's a visual thing. Same with TikTok, it's all about the visuals. So taking those short, sharp bits of content is really, really key here.
What about this one? Podcast.
Yeah, this one is probably one of my favorites. I don't know about you, John, but the video podcasts get me good on Reels and TikTok. I can sit there for hours just watching podcast videos.
I thought you were going to say watching Orlando Bloom.
Oh, yeah.
I have a bit of a man crush on him as well.
Yeah,
like
all right.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
But long gone are the days where a podcast is only audio. So you will see now that podcasts are a very visual thing. So if you are doing podcasts, you want to be filming them as well, because then you can turn that into a reel, a TikTok, and a YouTube short as well. So you're hitting 3 marketing channels there with the one piece of content. So that's a really cool way to do that. This last one is just about combining your top performing content pieces. So for example, you've got the Graham Norton show. So things like the top 5 Ryan Gosling moments. So what they would have done here is they would have had the main interview. They would have just cut that down into 5 different sections. And then you have another piece of content that you can be posting on YouTube or on Reels or TikTok as well.
And just snippets, mashups, whatever.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Short and punchy. So there's just a couple of practical examples, and like literally, this is endless in terms of how you slice and dice that.
Yeah.
Switching it sort of back to us, how do we convert our blog post into a full month of supporting content?
Yeah.
Talk us about this, Gaps.
So the first thing that we want to do is we want to decide on what our content theme is going to be. So that is really, really important, because what you want to do is that theme is going to set the foundation for all of the content that you produced that month. So for example, last month, our content theme was branding. Now, our hero piece of content was a blog post, and the topic of that blog post was a rebrand versus brand refresh. So we went into the month knowing that everything that we're going to be producing content-wise, it's going to be around branding, and the information that we're going to get that from is our blog post, which was a rebrand versus a brand refresh.
And here are the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, so these are our content formats that we focus on here at 5x5. So obviously our hero piece, we then have a webinar on the theme of the month. We convert that into a YouTube video. We then have a bunch of Instagram, LinkedIn content that we produce as well. Another thing that we do is email newsletters. So that piece of content, our blog post, then is converted into all of these different formats that then we post throughout the month.
Point to note here, like content is like a smorgasbord. You don't have to eat everything.
No way.
You can pick and choose your favorite pieces. So, and if you try and do everything, you're probably not going to do it really well either.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of relates back to those first 2 key points that we spoke about, is understanding what your audience is wanting to see from you. So there's no point posting TikToks if your audience is not on TikTok. So don't put your energy into that. Put it into something that they're going to be on or looking at. So as a calendar, how this actually looks for 5x5. So our 2 sort of hero pieces, so our blog post, and then our live webinar. So pretty much what we're doing today, to give you an example, we'll turn this into 10 pieces of content. We've got that planned already. So once we've got these 2 items, what that then looks like is you've got your promotion of these things. So we're sharing our blog post. We are emailing our database, letting them know what the month's webinar is going to be on as well. And then as well in LinkedIn, what we're doing is we're posting about the upcoming webinar. So there's a bunch of content that we've done just from the first 2 that we started with. And then that turns into, we do the webinar, and that then gets uploaded to YouTube. So we are touching our YouTube channel here. And then what we do is we repurpose the webinar transcript into another blog. So what we're doing is we're taking the webinar, the audio of the webinar, and basically just turning that into written content as a second blog for the month. So a hot tip here would literally just to get the transcript of any audio, maybe plugging that into ChatGPT and just letting it know that you want to turn it into a blog post, and then letting it do the work. So it is quite straightforward and easy to do. So then we move on to Instagram. So then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sharing the webinar and the replay as well on Instagram and LinkedIn. So there's another bunch of content that we're posting. And then we get to our next part. So basically the next part is our social posts. So these social posts are taking snippets of our original blog post and just turning them into those visuals. So for example, we did an introduction into brand and branding. And we got that information from the blog post that we originally wrote. And then same with, let's just say, examples of visual brands that we've done. We just picked up our latest clients that we've done visual branding for and put that together in an Instagram post. So you can see here how that one blog post really turns into pretty much a day a month. I mean, you can get further than this, but it turns into a day a month of posting something somewhere.
And that's really like, I think of the gold standard. Ideally, there's like one bit of content that's hitting the world in some shape or fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and me as a business owner, like I'm super stoked with that in terms of just, you know, we're sort of coming at it from lots of different angles, and everyone consumes content in different ways. So
Yeah, exactly.
that gives us that coverage.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there was another one. We got
The
some
final
more.
one, yeah, is
Yep.
just our monthly digital dose. So we send our monthly email newsletter to our database, and we'll have a whole section in there about the theme of the month and a replay of the webinar itself.
So this is just more a visual representation.
Yeah, yeah. So this was our original blog. So that blog then turned into our webinar. So that webinar turned into another blog and then that YouTube video. And then from there, you can see that that turned into our email newsletter. So again, using the same content, just changing it into be the email newsletter format. And then finally, we have a whole bunch of social posts that get done throughout the month that all tie in back to that original blog post.
And that's really awesome just to see that sort of all laid out, and, you know, all that just nice visual consistency, and there's a real theme to it. So it's ticking a lot of good psychological boxes there. So well done on all your amazing work in coordinating all this, Gabs.
Thank you.
What we'll do is just give you sort of our sort of key parting shots. For me, the thing I've learned about content, like most things in life, is consistency is key.
Yeah.
Most businesses are sitting on a mountain of content. It just needs to be leveraged. So you think about like your IP, your products, your processes, how you're communicating with your clients day in, day out. Like that is content. That is proprietary stuff unique to you and your business. Like how can that be repurposed? You've already done the hard work, whether it's in an email or a resource or whatever. Get it out to the world. And that sort of ties into my final point, which is prolific, not perfect. And I'm totally guilty of this in the fact that I want everything to be perfect before it goes out to the world. But it's more just getting it out there, learning, iterating, evolving, and improving.
Yeah.
What about you, Gabs?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to this is just being prepared. So we like to prepare a couple months in advance, and that sort of answers your question there, Mark. So we like to prepare at least 3 months worth of content in advance. I find that 12 months is probably a little bit too far in advance because things can change, your topics can change, something relevant could pop up that you really want to pop into your schedule. So about 3 months is our sweet spot. As well, start small. You don't feel like you have to hit all of this in your first month of trying to build out your content plan. Even if you do a blog post and a couple of Instagram posts, that's a great way to start, just so that you can get into a really good rhythm. And then again, just remembering your audience and what platform they're on and the content that they expect. You don't want to be posting the wrong sort of content on each platform because that can be really quite negative for your brand as well. So just maybe having a look at even what your competitors are doing is a great place to start to see the type of content they're producing and the engagement that they get with that. But yeah, just remembering what your audience wants to see is probably most important.
Do you have any recommendations for tools, platforms to schedule social media posts in advance?
Yes, we do. So we use a platform called Later. So it is a great way to see all of your content a month in advance, and a super, super quick and easy way just to get everything scheduled. One thing I will say as well, if you are not using Canva, you are really missing out. They just did a massive upgrade to the platform itself. And what you can do now is you can get it to bulk create content for you. So you can give it a brief, just kind of similar like what you would do with ChatGPT. You can give it a brief, you can upload all of your branding, and then Canva will go away and just create all of these amazing looking graphics and Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts for you. So it's not up to you to sit there and design it yourself. We're not all designers. It's actually quite hard to come up with the actual design of the content itself. So leveraging Canva is a great way to get started and save you a bunch of time.
What a tool. Like all our slides are there in Canva, but like even our senior designer of 11 years, he's sold. Sammy, the big man who was on the webinar last month, he's a convert, and just seeing the stuff they're doing with the AI integrations. And then Michelle has asked, or just said, agree with, there's lots of potential for repurposing. Sometimes we're blind to the content we are sitting on and worry about sounding repetitive. Does 5x5 offer any sort of audit style service? So how we assist our clients create content is typically either through the creation of these digital assets, such as a website, or through the ongoing optimization of that website through search engine optimization and or pay-per-click, so driving traffic to landing pages. So really, like, our role as a digital partner is more focused in and around almost like the digital infrastructure, so the website and the different traffic channels, SEO and ads. In terms of us being like sort of specific content creators, like my view on that is that should always be driven internally, because when you outsource it, it's just a really it's a difficult thing to outsource. Do you have an opinion on that, Gabs? Like, looking at content holistically across social and email and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like if you've got the time and the resources within your team, it's a great way, because your team and you know your business best and you understand what you're talking about. Yep. I find sometimes if you're outsourcing specific content, messaging can get lost a little bit because the people producing the content aren't the experts, if that makes sense. So really, again, just to touch on what John talked about, is like where 5x5 comes in is we could help you create that hero piece of content, being that blog. So our SEO team can get together with you and figure out what your hero piece of content could be for the month. So for example, it might be a specific service that you do, or it's a specific product. So for example, if you are a lawyer, you might look at something like wills and estates for 1 month. So the SEO team can then help you build out that blog post. And then from there, the business would then pull out those little snippets of content that you want to be able to post on Instagram, LinkedIn, through your newsletter as well.
That brings us up to the end of today's presentation. We have some more content, a content planner template. So everyone who is showing up today gets a copy of this through email. So we'll send that out. Anything else to add to that, Gabs?
No, that content plan is going to be a really great step in order to get you started. So it's basically the calendar view that we just showed you. So we've popped in there an example of what 5x5 does, so that you've got kind of a foundation to work on. And then you've got a blank one that you can sort of fill out for what a month looks like in your business. But yeah, it should be really helpful. I find that any sort of calendar view just makes things a whole lot clearer, and you can see what is expected each week and each day of what content's going out to the world.
And I know what we are talking about next month. We are catching up with my business coach, who I've been working with for 8 or 9 years, super smart guy. His name's Dr. David Dugan, and he will be delivering a whole bunch of gold nuggets. Just
Yeah.
talking as we move through the new financial year. So really, it's like a bit of a financial year reset, bigger picture, sort of like business strategy and how digital may play a part in that. So jump on board when that email shows up.